Good morning. Today, let us discuss a very interesting topic in economics, economic theory and paradoxes. We know an economic theory is developed after a lot of observation and research, and it produces certain laws. For example, law of demand, law of supply, lot of laws are there. Then what is a paradox? When we observe something opposite to this law, we may say it is a paradox. For example, when we accept a paradox, it will question the theory or it will invalidate the theory. So, there are two groups of economists, one group supporting the theory, other group supporting the paradox. When we accept the arguments of those who are put forward in paradoxes, it will invalidate the theory. So, there are a lot of hot debates in economics whether to accept the paradox or not. We will discuss 3-4 famous paradoxes in economics. One is water diamond paradox. So, what is water diamond paradox? It is related to early classical theories. One of the favorite topic of these classical economists was determination of value or determination of price. They discussed how price of various commodities are determined, how price of a chappal is determined, how price of a penny is determined, how price of a car is determined. So, this price fixation, how it is done. Classicals argued that price of a commodity is determined by its value, its utility. So, utility price connection is the one contribution of the early classical economists. So, as far as the value theory is concerned, price of a commodity is determined by its utility, and this was generally accepted as a law. But later at least some economists point out that it may not be true in all cases. For example, they point out that take up water. If price of water is determined by its utility, it should be 0, because we know utility of water is very high. It should not be, it should be very high, it is not 0, it must be very high. But we take another product, another commodity, diamond. What about utility of diamond? It is almost nothing, it is only a snob good. But what about price of diamond? It is very high. They asked classical economist, leader of the classical school, Adam Smith, why is it so? Water is a very highly useful commodity, but price is 0 or almost 0. But when we go to diamond, its utility is almost nil, but price is very high. So, we can see that this is against classical finding, and hence it is considered as a paradox. How it is solved, we will take up later. Let us go to another interesting paradox, paradox of thrift. This is also related to classical ideas, and the classicals argued that saving is good for the economy. So, they encouraged people to save more and more. But when Keynesian economics came into existence, John Maynard Keynes questioned this argument of the classicals. He said that it is a wrong notion. More and more saving at individual level may be good, but if more and more people save in an economy, lot of money will go out of circular flow, and it will push down aggregate demand. And aggregate demand falling means economy may move to depression. So, savings will fall, ultimately savings will fall. He points out this possibility. So, Keynesian argument is that at individual level saving is good, but when savings become collective, it may be bad for the society. So, it is opposite of the classical argument that more and more saving is good to the society. Keynes proved that more and more saving need not be good to the society, hence it is a paradox. Now, let us move to another very interesting paradox known as Giffen's paradox. It is a much discussed paradox in economics, highly debated paradox. We know the famous law of demand. What law of demand states? It says an inverse relationship exists between demand for a commodity and price. Whenever price is high, quantity demand will be low. whenever price is low, quantity demand will be high. This is the general notion which is known as law of demand. But one Scottish economist known as Sir Robert Giffen questioned this law. He observed that through his empirical study, he observed that in a market near his home, a particular product, take a particular product bread, when price of bread is high, lot of bread is demanded, demand for bread is increasing. When price of bread is coming down, its demand is also coming down. He asked Marshall, the famous Cambridge economist and a supporter of this law of demand, why is it so? So, he pointed out a paradox. Law of demand says when price is high, demand should come down. When price is low, demand must increase. But here an opposite relationship is not touched. A direct relationship between price and quantity is not touched. So, hence it is known as a paradox. We will take up later how this paradox is resolved, and we will discuss one more paradox known as the Leontief paradox in economics. Leontief paradox is related to international trade theory. Two Swedish economists put forward an interesting theory known as Extraordinary theorem. As per this theorem, they found out a relationship between factor abundance or availability of factor in a nation and trade, that is what consisted of exports of a nation. And their finding is that when a nation is capital rich, its export must be capital intensive. When a nation is found to be labor rich, its export should be labor intensive. This is the finding, factor endowment and the export commodity. This relationship is pointed out by Extra and Orlin. But many empirical studies took place. A famous empirical study was conducted in 1951 by a Russian American economist Leontieff. Vasily Leontieff studied American exports, and he found out that American exports consist of capital labor intensive products, and everybody is aware that America is a capital rich nation. Then how it become that American exports are labor intensive? It is against the finding of Extraordinary model. So, it is a paradox, and similar studies are conducted in underdeveloped countries also. For example, in India, one Ranganath Bharadwaj studied and found out that Indian exports are capital intensive. It is a paradox, because everybody know that India is a labor rich nation. Labor rich nation like India is exporting capital intensive product is a paradox. So, there are number of paradoxes like these are available. Supporters of these paradoxes, if we accept these paradoxes, these theories will get invalidated. Hence, supporters of these paradoxes, supporters of this theory try to resolve these paradoxes. How these paradoxes are resolved will be discussed in the next class. Thank you.